Hey there guys, Nordic Warrior here, back with another video. So, just before I get started with what I wanted to talk about in the video, wanted to give a quick channel update. So, I initially intended to have two retrospectives done this week. Those of you who've been following my channel will know that I uploaded two on the same weekend last week, and I basically made those videos simultaneously. I intended to do the same thing this week, but unfortunately I ran into a few technical issues and I wasn't able to get all the relevant footage that I needed to get for those two videos. They're pretty long videos too. In fact, one of them is almost an hour long, a retrospective video, and yeah, I'm not going to be able to get that finished this week, unfortunately. And the same goes for my other one. I'm going to figure out another way to get the relevant footage. I do have a couple of ideas in mind, and there's a couple of little tweaks I need to make to the video, a couple of changes I need to make and that. So yeah, channel might be a little bit quiet for the next week or so. And of course, as my more recent viewing audience will know, I've been very busy over the past couple of weeks, not only with work, but with other things outside of work too. You know, it's been a very hectic time for me at the moment, and a little bit stressed out, if truth be told. But nonetheless, I wanted to make a video. Just keep the channel active and give you guys something to watch. So I figured, you know what? What always takes my mind off things and allows me to kind of vent a bit and yeah, just interact with my audience is to do a prediction video, because why not? So I looked at the upcoming schedule to see what fights were coming up this weekend, find something to talk about, and there's really no boxing over the next couple of weeks or so that interests me at all. I believe later this month we've got the Bivol Beterbiev rematch, which I am interested in, of course, but if truth be told, I'm kinda sick and tired of talking about that fight. I've talked about it so many times on live streams. I've given so many breakdowns over the years of Bivol and Beterbiev and how they match up, and you know, I talked about the first fight so much on the channel before it happened, and going into the rematch, I kind of think that my regular viewing audience probably knows what my opinion is there, so yeah, I'm not going to really bother with it unless I get the urge to talk about it closer to the night. So the only fighters that I'm really familiar with that are fighting this weekend is, of course, the heavyweight fight between Derek Chisora and Otto Wallin. Now, when I first heard about this fight, I had absolutely no interest in it. But for whatever reason, with the fight happening this weekend and getting closer, I'm actually somewhat looking forward to it. I really don't know why, because I don't think it's going to be a particularly entertaining fight or anything like that. I just kind of feel like it's one of them fights where it might be an interesting stylistic match for as long as it lasts. So Otto Wallin, I believe, is actually quite a sizable favourite for the fight, despite the fact that the fight is taking place in the UK, which is interesting to me because when I look at these two now, I do agree that Wallin should be the favourite at this stage of their careers. I do think he's obviously the much fresher guy, you know, the much fitter guy at this stage. He's taken a lot less punishment, and going into that ring, he should be the guy who is just more durable, more fit, more ready to do battle. You know, Derek Chisora is a guy who has seen better days, and that's putting it lightly. The guy is practically punch drunk at this stage of his career. He has not looked good for a very long time. But the reason why I was surprised that the odds for the fight were so wide is because it's not as if Otto Wallin brings anything to the table that Derek Chisora hasn't seen before. You know, it's kind of a situation where you think that Otto Wallin should win, you think he has the ability to win, and I don't doubt that he does have the ability to win. I mean, I could definitely see him emulating the performance he had against the likes of Adrian Granat or Dominic Breazeale or Murat Gassiev. You know, he basically did the exact same thing in all three of those fights. You know, he moved laterally for the entire fight and boxed behind a jab, you know, pecked away at the opponent and won by decision. You know, the Gassiev fight was close and competitive, whereas the other two fights I mentioned were not. So I don't see why he shouldn't be able to do it to this version of Chisora. But at the same time, Chisora in his last fight against Joe Joyce still showed that he's willing to go in there and have a tear-up. You know, he's willing to swing for the fences, he's willing to maul you on the inside and really give it his all to try and get the win. So I would have thought that the odds for the fight would have been a little bit closer, because I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, given Otto Wallin's kind of lack of ambition, his lack of punching power, that Chisora, even at this stage of his career, could get in there and just outwork and outpoint him. It's definitely a possibility. Like, I don't think the fight's a absolute mismatch or anything like that. So how do I think it's going to go? Like I said, I do think Otto Wallin is rightfully the favourite. Otto Wallin is a fighter who I've never really rated that highly, and the reason for that is, well, there's a couple of reasons. The main reason is his overall mentality. In my opinion, Otto Wallin is a guy who doesn't really get the most out of his talent. When he fought Anthony Joshua, for example, because I want to give an example of how he tends to conduct himself when he gets a big fight and a big opportunity. He kind of freezes up on the big stage. I mean, that Anthony Joshua performance was laughable. It was pathetic, if truth be told. He went in there against a very, very beatable and very, very vulnerable version of Anthony Joshua, who was in the middle of a rebuilding process, who, as we later found out in his next fight, was chinny, was lacking in confidence. And you would have expected Otto Wallin, given the opportunity that that fight was, to have some sort of game plan and to go out there and give it his all to win and go out on his shield. He really didn't do that. He went in there, was crossing his feet, wasn't committing to punches, barely did anything at all. And when the going got too tough for him, he just gave up, just quit on his stool. Seemed like a fixed fight to me. I said so at the time. It seemed like he had no intention of winning the fight. No ambition whatsoever. He was there to get paid, and he was just happy to be there. It was a similar situation in the Fury fight, but to a lesser degree. I've talked about that before. Again, he had a very vulnerable, very damaged version of Fury in front of him in a vulnerable position, and he didn't do what was necessary to get the win. I don't think he was even really that bothered, if truth be told. He looked to me like he was just glad to be there. Just happy to be there. So that's not the right mentality you want to have if you're a heavyweight championship contender. So even if he's able to get past Chisora, I don't really see this guy being a champion or really going that much further, if truth be told. If he were fighting Derek Chisora in his prime, I think that Derek Chisora would have the durability and the stamina and the tenacity and the overall attitude towards the sport to go in there and put on the kind of performance that you often saw from him at European level. Because I think against a guy like Chisora in his prime, one of the things you absolutely need to have to beat a guy like that is power. Because if you don't have power, Chisora has the kind of attitude where he will just walk you down and maul you. You look at the guys who beat Chisora, guys like Vitaly Klitschko, Tyson Fury, David Haye and whatnot, they all had power. They were all able to get Chisora's respect. And even those guys had trouble with him. Even those guys were backed up and put under a lot of pressure. So I can only imagine how a guy like Otto Wallin, who doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as either of those guys I just mentioned, and doesn't have the kind of will to win as those guys I just mentioned, I can only imagine him breaking against a prime Derek Chisora. But against the current version of Derek Chisora, who doesn't have anywhere near the kind of stamina he used to have, doesn't have anywhere near the coordination, the punch resistance, the durability, the speed, he's a lot slower, both hand and foot, than he used to be. I can just picture Otto Wallin moving around him laterally, pecking away with the jab, and again, just doing what he did against Granat, against Brazil, and against Gassiev, just picking up points from long range and winning the fight on points. So I definitely think, in a nutshell, that's the most likely outcome here, is Otto Wallin, is young enough and fresh enough and fit enough and quick enough to just move around Chisora and outpoint him. But for some reason, and this is why I'm kind of looking forward to the fight now, for some reason, I'm not 100% confident with my pick. Like, that Joe Joyce fight is still in the back of my mind. Now, I know Joe Joyce was awful that night. I know Joe Joyce fought like an absolute moron. He just stood in front of Chisora and allowed himself to get whacked all night. I don't know what that was all about, if truth be told. But just putting Joe Joyce aside and how awful he was, and looking at the attitude that Chisora brought to the fight, I think Chisora, even now, has a winning attitude. You know, even now, he's going to go in there, he's going to swing for the fences, he's going to apply pressure, and he's going to do everything he can to get the win against Otto Wallin. And I think that this is going to be an entertaining fight as a result of that. Like, I think Chisora's just, his overall attitude to the fight is going to push Otto Wallin to the brink. And I think we might have to see Otto Wallin perform. Like it might force a performance out of him. So I do think it's an interesting fight in that regard. And I do think that Chisora's experience at this stage has allowed him to know when he needs to hang around in the corner and take breaks and slip and slide, you know, kind of like James Toney, and, you know, just allow his opponent to work and then look for a sneaky counter shot. You know, that was how he caught Joe Joyce and dropped him. He went over to the ropes, dropped his hands, kind of played possum a little bit, and then walked him onto that big overhand right. I could see him doing something similar to Otto Wallin, just not to the same degree. Like, I don't think Wallin will just stand in front of him and give him free shots like Joyce did. I think Wallin will be a little bit more circumspect and a little bit more tactful. So, yeah, that's the only fight that's coming up this weekend, and for whatever reason, I'm quite excited about it now. Just me trying to be optimistic and trying to be positive and looking forward to something this weekend, something to take my mind off all the work I've been doing. So yeah, somebody asked me in the comment section today, will I be doing a live stream this weekend? It really depends. Again, I've got a lot of work to do, and I'll explain in the live stream what it is I'm actually doing. I don't really want to go into details here, but yeah, I've just had a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, I'm very tired right now. It's the middle of the night as I record this. When I do a live stream, I'll obviously be more perky and more willing to explain what's going on and whatnot. So yeah, I'm going with Otto Wallin, long story short, to win the fight by a unanimous decision. I think he's going to peck and prod. I think he's going to move around Chisora, probably win on points. But I would not be at all surprised if Derek Chisora went in there and crowded him and gave him a lot of problems and potentially even won. That would not surprise me at all. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Wallin's bottle kind of crashed, if he got caught with a big shot and he just kind of went in his shell, and Chisora, with the home advantage, managed to outwork him and outpoint him. And Wallin just didn't do enough to get the decision in Chisora's backyard. You know, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But it's interesting to me because if Chisora does win the fight, like bearing in mind he beat Joe Joyce, who just a couple of years ago was world ranked, was actually an interim champion. If Chisora was to get the win tonight, that puts him in the mix to potentially get a title shot. Like, could you imagine in 2025 Derek Chisora getting another world title shot? I mean, it's just funny to think about. It's curious, isn't it? So yeah, going with Otto Wallin on points. Not confident in my pick. I think it's an interesting one though. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, I wanted to give you guys something to watch because I really did want to get those 2 videos done this week, and I'm annoyed that I wasn't able to. But yeah, that's my video. Thanks for watching, guys. As you can tell, I'm tired. God bless.